webinar is to discuss the discussion forums portlet as well as other communication portlets, including the chat. And this is the new template that you're looking at now. This is just I call it my little scratch box course here that I use in different trainings that is presented. And you'll notice that the navigation on the left has changed. And in each of the trainings, I just want to remind you that any class that you teach in the fall will have this template applied to it. And what I mean by template is all of the buttons, the navigation structure on the left, the terminology has been changed. You might see some new pages that weren't there before. And then also, there are some new portlets that you may not be familiar with, and those are in other webinars that we've done through the summer, including the course overview portlet and so forth. So just kind of keep that in mind. Tonight specifically, we're focusing on the discussion forums as well as the chat. Those are the two areas that this webinar will address this evening. You'll notice over on the left-hand side on the navigation panel, before, our discussion forums were hidden under another tab called Collaboration. And under that tab, the student would then look and find discussion forums. So if you were referencing an assignment and having student go to a discussion board or discussion forum, often they would have to click on Collaboration in order to get there. And sometimes students had a hard time with that word collaboration. They didn't know exactly what was underneath it. So this fall, beginning this fall, we have decided to use the word forums and place that on its own page. So when you click on forums, it'll take you to the actual home page of your forums itself. Now, this forums page, I have quite a few categories and topics included, but in your fall class, I presume that you will have none until you copy those over or you make your new topics. If you do copy over your forums, please keep in mind that check those hyperlinks that you're providing students. Often those hyperlinks will not be valid or they'll change. And it's always a good idea to read through and make sure that those topics are still current and updated and you can still get some interest from your students. Remember that discussion forums is a place that your students and yourself can collaborate, not only with each other, but the students can also collaborate with other students. So I would encourage you to choose topics that are open-ended, that address a wide variety of audiences, and you want to try to engage the student as much as possible. So one way to do that is to provide topics that are current, perhaps off of an RSS news feed, or maybe just something in the news that you just recently picked up that would be valuable to your students and create some interest. Some common mistakes that instructors make with discussion forums is, number one, they'll ask questions that are either yes or no, and then there is no collaboration that takes place at all. It's all, they're either agreeing or disagreeing. So if you only have one answer to your question, you're really, not getting very far with the discussion forum. Another mistake that I find instructors make is often they'll put so many parameters on the forum post. For example, it has to be 500 words and you must reply at this time and you must have this many replies. Sometimes when you set those parameters and you set those expectations too high, the forum then becomes a formal writing assignment and not a place to collaborate. So what I recommend is when you create your forums, you want to create that same dialogue that you are doing in a face-to-face environment. So if you welcome your students the first day of class and you ask them what their goals are, and they begin to answer, you wouldn't count off points if they misspoke or they pronounced a word incorrectly. The same thing is true in a discussion forum. You want to mirror it just as closely as possible to your face-to-face environment. And if you do want a formal writing assignment, you can use the assignment tool for that and have them upload an assignment, a file upload assignment. But the goal of tonight's webinar is to really just show you how you can enrich your students with great ideas and creativity and create that enriched dynamic interface with your students. Now, by doing that, sure, it's going to take some time on your part because you'll have to spend more time replying to those students and keeping them on track and keeping their focus on the actual subject so they're learning. But I promise you that the students will benefit greatly if you create that enriched environment. When you come here to the forum page, before you go to the coursework to actually create your assignments, I would recommend you create the forums first. I would always have a cyber cafe or a water cooler or a coffee house or some kind of category that is open discussion, whereas your students feel comfortable posting a question that they might have about the course, and then other students can reply, including yourself. And I usually just say, you know, you can post about the course here or anything else. You know, it's kind of like an anything goes forum. Make them feel comfortable, maybe even like an open office hour type of forum. And you can create your categories by selecting the Edit Forum option at the top. I like to mirror my categories directly to my units that I have in my coursework. The only one that would be different would be my Cyber Cafe. You can create a category upstairs at the top where it says Add a Category. And as I'm going through the webinar, feel free to ask questions in the chat, and I'll be keeping my eye on that. When you click on Add a Category, this allows you to select your category name. And I like to refer to mine as Unit 1 and then the description of whatever that unit is. And you can often write a description as well. Sometimes I'll put the objectives for that unit and just duplicate them over from my coursework units. But either way, try to identify it and match it directly back to your coursework. So if this is a forum that's going to be found in Unit 1 and you've told your student under the coursework to post under Unit 1, when they go to forums, you want them to be able to see it easy. So creating those categories that match are ideal. And you can see that once you do that, here I've got Unit 1, Basic Course Shell, Unit 2, Instructional Design Overview. It's very easy to follow when you create these categories. So select your categories, and then after you select your categories, on the far right-hand side, you have the Move tool. So if you want to reposition them, you can just click and drag, just like this, and then you can reorganize them in a particular order. After you make all of your categories, you're then ready to develop your topics. And under each of your categories, you'll have the forum topics. Then you can select Add a Topic. Once you choose Add a Topic, you'd want to go ahead and put in your topic name in there. I don't think there's any reason to put Unit 1 in front of that, but let's say this is an introduction post, introductions. And then in the description, I'm going to give them not only a description, but also directions on what I want them to do. If you're requiring how many words, if you're requiring a word count, you'd want to include that as well. You want to be just as specific as possible in that topic description. Also, you can reference additional sites or videos. You could also embed a video directly into the topic description. And if you have not embedded a video before, you'd want to go to the HTML link. And if you could just take a minute underneath the chat window, and if you have embedded a video in a forum, if you could just give me a yes or a no there. If I see 2 guesses, I'll skip over it. But if you put a video directly in here, then they could watch a video and then respond instead of putting a hyperlink and it would take them outside of the discussion forum. here the video would actually play within the actual forum topic, which is a nice feature. Have either of you, Jen or Catherine, have either of you embedded a video before in a discussion forum? Yes. Yes, Catherine, you can. You can attach your Camtasia video here. You can also just simply embed it. There is a location that allows you to attach it, but I think if I were you, I would probably embed it. Most of the video websites out there like YouTube and Vimeo, when you select a video, and I'm just going to quickly find ours real quick. Inside Neosho is the key term for the YouTube channel if you're looking for it. Sometimes that video plays and scares me to death, but I think we got it under control. If I were to select maybe a video here, and if I wanted to put this into my forum, I would want to embed the code, and normally there is a link over here right underneath the videos that you can see, and I am logged in so I can't see it. Let me copy this. I'm logged into YouTube, so I'm not able to see the embedded version of my own video, so I'm just signing out real quickly. But there would be an embed code that you can select and copy, and then in the HTML you just paste it right here and the video would display. So if you haven't done that before, it's fairly easy to do. For the Camtasia videos, you can make a hyperlink to it by using this hyperlink tool right at the top. Or often what I'll do is post those Camtasia videos somewhere online and then embed it that way as well. So Catherine, you could go to YouTube and post that, and I can set you up a playlist if you'd like. It can be private, and you could put your videos there, and that would be a really easy link to your students. Or you could use just the normal file mechanisms and attach the file that way as well. It's just kind of up to you, your preference. I prefer the YouTube because the students have their iPads and their cell phones, and it's just an easy way instead of having to go through InsideNC to view it. But either way, it's really just up to the faculty member and what their preferences are.
Okay, when I get that far, I might have you help me set that up to get that playlist or link going like you were talking about.
Yes, you can certainly let me know, send me an email, and I would be happy to set you up with a playlist. We can make it private or you can make it public, but it would be a link here from our channel, and you see these playlists on our home page.
Consider Neosho County Community College for the next stage.
I told you that video was going to happen. But down here on the playlist, you'll see that we have one for registration and financial aid, and we also have one for the general psychology, Tina Olke's class. And I'm hoping that more faculty members will request their own playlist. I'd really love to see that, kind of like an electronic library of all of our videos. It would be awesome to share. So if you want a playlist, all you need to do is just send me an email, and I would be more than happy to set that up for you, and you can upload directly to that. And then just share your links. I think that's the best way to go, as students are so mobile that they have those devices on different tablets and cell phones. So not that InsideNC isn't compatible with those devices, it's just a lot quicker to pull up YouTube and watch something than to have to log in and try to navigate your way through it. So it's really just a personal preference.
Okay.
All right, so once you have your topic description in, I'm going to go ahead and select mute so I don't get any feedback. But once you once you place your topic in here, and then you can set when you want to activate it. You could go ahead and create all of your forums ahead of time and put on display dates if you'd like. That's normally what I do. This middle option for manually, you got to be cautious with that, because if you do select that, there is no warning that's going to tell you it's hidden. You have to remember and remembering is not my forte. So usually I put display on or display now. You can also look at post and replies for new content. You can make it available to specific users or available to all users. I don't know if you have any group projects or not, but if you do restricted access, you could make a forum topic just for 2 or 3 students where they could use that as a group project. And I just started doing that in my computer concepts class this summer, and it's going over very well. This eliminates the need for students to have to email back and forth. They can actually communicate right there in the forum. And what's great about that is, I don't know if you've assigned a group project before, but there's usually always 1 or 2 students who complain that someone didn't do their share of the work, unless you have a magic class, and I've never had one of those. But normally, there's always 1 or 2 students who end up not doing their share of the work. But by having a discussion forum, you can actually monitor what communication is taking place amongst your group. So I would encourage you to use the restricted access for your group projects. That's a really nice, handy tool, and you can make yourself a member of that forum as well. And that way you can see if you have one of those students who just needs a little extra push or kick. Here you also have some restrictions. Here you can have students look at no messages until they've posted first. Once they've posted their first message, then they can see their own content. So just some restrictions here in the midsection, and then moderation. If you use moderation, it will email to you, or you will be notified. You would have to review it before you actually make it available. Again, if you start using these moderations, remember, it doesn't become collaborative. It becomes more evaluative and summative. So, you just need to decide what type of discussion threads you're wanting to post in your class. Now, once you have your topics and you save them, that's probably the most important thing, is to make sure they're in a category and then make sure that you've labeled them correctly. I would take the time to build all of the forums before you do the assignments, and I'll show you why. And then the last thing before I move to that is, up at the top, you can allow anonymous posting if you're brave. You can select this little checkbox up here at the top, and then students will be able to post in a forum without their name. There can be good and bad to that. If you are in an ethical unit and you're discussing some controversial topics, that might be okay if you're not taking a grade. Maybe you just want to get some opinions without students having their names associated to it. That might be okay. But then you might also have a student who feels very comfortable and very free about speaking their mind, and you might create a not very good environment for other students. So it just depends on what kind of topics that you're choosing to collaborate on. Once you have your forums built, this is the new feature under coursework now. We talked about some of the different assignment types that you can have, but the newest assignment type that the upgrade included was the forum assignment, and that's the one that I want to spend time on tonight. You'll notice that these are the 4 assignment types, and we have gone over that in previous trainings. But again, it's this third option right here in the middle of the screen called the forum format that I wanted to focus on. I'm going to go ahead and select that one time. When you open up the forum assignment, you have the option to give it a name. So I'm going to link this back to my introduction. So introductions. And then you can tell it what unit you want to place it under. There's Unit 1 all the way down to Unit 8. I'm going to put Unit 1 into the category here. You can tell it if it's required and what kind of type it is. And I have a forums type. And you'll want to also remember when you do this that you can modify those categories as well. So if there was another category that was not listed, you could add it, as well as unit. You could add another unit as well. I wouldn't recommend that. I would build your course first and then go back and link it. The next item is the post due date, and this is telling you when do you want your students to make their their first post. And normally I have the first post in my unit due on the Wednesday of the first week. My units are set up in 2-week intervals, so that first Wednesday is when their first post would be due. So I'm going to assume that this is going to be tomorrow, the 19th, and I'm going to make it due at this time. Then your replies, when do you want the student to end their forums? Well, normally it's going to be the last day of the unit. That's what's great about having your units labeled with the dates, even though this date is incorrect. What's great about it is that you don't have to go back and remember when does Unit 1 end. Because you've labeled your units correctly, you won't have to go back and remember that. So I'm going to select the following Sunday, which would be the 30th, so that would be a 2-week interval. So the first post would be the 19th, and then the 30th is when I expect all of the replies to be made to others. If you don't have a first post due date, you can just leave it blank and it would be the 30th, so the first and the replies would both be due on the 30th. You can leave that blank. One of the flaws with the upgrade, and I believe they're going to have this resolved in the near future, is there is not a checkbox up here at the top to show the first post date in the calendar. There's only a checkbox for the actual due date, which is good to put that on the calendar, but you'll have to be sure you tell students in the unit that the first post is always due on Wednesday or on Thursday, whenever you make yours due. Until then, that is not going to show up on their calendar. So Wednesday may come and go, and they may not know that the first post was due. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you tell them that you require the first post to be due at a certain point. Usually I tell my students in the very first week of class what my requirements are. I might repeat it the second unit, but after that it's usually set in stone and we get a routine down. It's normally just the first couple of units that I have to remind them that that first post is always due on Wednesday. You can also tell students, you can have them work on it now, even though it may not come up, then this unit may not begin until next week. You can make it available now so they can start working on it. You can make it available later. Again, you have to have a master memory so you can come back and open it up, which I don't have. Or you can put it on a specific date, which is usually what I do. So we'll go ahead and make it now for this example. Then how many points it's worth. If it's a graded forum assignment, you put your points in there and when you want to show the grade. And then down here at the bottom is the item that I'm most excited about. I have been waiting for this for some time with InsideNC. It's right down here at the bottom. Now that you have your forums already built, now all we have to do is link it back to what forum we already created. So this assignment is going to have no value until we tell it where the forum post is going to be. This is what's great. Here you have a drop down and you can see all of the categories that were made in the forums. If you didn't build the forums first, you wouldn't have any of these categories to link it back to, and this assignment would be of no value. You absolutely, absolutely must create the forums first before you make the assignments. So with that in mind, I can now set my introduction is going to be under Cyber Cafe, so I can select that, and then it's going to show you all the topics under that category. So again, if I could choose maybe Unit 4, then I can see what topic is under Unit 4. That's why it's very important to not only categorize, but list your topics under those appropriate categories. So I know this is going to be under Cyber Cafe, so I can select that. and then I will also choose the corresponding topic. That is probably one of the most beneficial things that's going to be exciting for you as a faculty member. This will allow you to grade the forum directly in the forum. You will no longer have to print or write down the scores for your students and then go to the grade book, which was so difficult to do. So here is a great way that you're able to keep track of your students' progress. The second option is the forum assignment and options, and you can have some additional settings here that weren't before. There are some collaboration settings at the top where you can not allow students to post or reply until the assignment opens. You cannot allow students to post or reply until after the due date. You also have one until not allowing students to edit their post until after they are made. And then last, you can require students to make a post in the collaborating with others topic before they can see other students' work. You see everything in bold here is the name of my forum topic. So if I were to choose a different topic, it was going to replace all of this with that topic. And in the middle section, you can set some requirements. So you know that a student needs to make at least one post. So you could put this checkbox here. It says specific requirements, at least one initial post in this topic. But you could have multiple posts, up to 10. If you require that they make 10 posts in this topic, you can choose that option. Usually one is recommended unless it's a forum that goes across maybe a group project or maybe a forum that lasts a longer length of time, like a journal entry. Then you can increase the number of posts that they do. But for this instance, an introduction, probably one initial post is all I want. You can also ignore posts that have shorter than so many words. So if you have a word count limit and you want their post to be no shorter than 250 words, you can put 250 in there, and anything shorter than that, it will not recognize and it won't score it or tell you that it's a post. It'll just count it as a 0 attempt. So, you know, if you are a word counter, you can go ahead and put that in there. I am not a word counter. I feel like best practice is to put those stipulations on it. I would do that in a formal writing assignment, but you know, in a face-to-face classroom, I wouldn't say, once you introduce yourself to the class and you have 50 words to use, go. You wouldn't do that in a face-to-face, so I wouldn't expect to do that in my online environment either. But other faculty are different, and they want to put a word count on it. That's completely up to the faculty member, and of course that's their academic freedom. Then the second option is how many replies you want the student to have. Probably at least one reply would be suitable. I require 2 replies in all of my discussion boards, so at least 2 replies in this topic. And again, you have a word count option at the bottom if you choose to do so. Instead of, you know, having them say, yes, I agree, I might put in 10 there, you know, 10 words. I want them to have a little bit more input, and that will help you in your grading process. And if you have a large class, and I think large would be over 30 students by far, is a good large class for an online environment, that's going to help cutting down on your grading time by stipulating those few words, like 5 or 10 words long, that you don't want to count. And then last, step 3 is the instructions and files for this forum topic. I love this part because I love to describe what I want students to collaborate on. That's probably my favorite part about online learning, is this little box right here. I'm just giving them the tools necessary in order for them to form an opinion. And they can either prove it, by providing some additional research, or maybe they just are stating an opinion about a news event that has taken place. And then the instructions, I'm pretty specific, and normally my instructions are the same on all of my forums. I just copy and paste it over. I do have a rubric that I use for all of my discussion forums. Again, if you're interested in receiving a copy of a rubric, let me know, and I would be more than happy to email it to you. The rubric is also found when you click on forums, and I'll show you that here in just a minute, but it's found on the home page under forums now. There's actually a rubric portlet right beside forums. So you can upload a rubric and the students will have that available to them throughout the whole semester, which is great because it's hard to grade discussion forums without some kind of guide, and it's also hard to post in a discussion forum without some kind of guide. So it works both ways. It's a great resource. So when you're done with your instructions, and notice there's an add a file link, and Catherine, you were asking about Camtasia videos. This is where you could add your Camtasia video right here. You could select add a file and then locate your MOV or your WMV or Windows Media file. You can attach it right here if you'd like, and that way they could download it. Or if you have it on YouTube, of course, you could always make a link to it by using the little chain icon here at the top. Other files I like to attach are maybe news clippings, the actual newspaper that I saw the article in. It might be a picture. I take a lot of photos throughout the year of different kinds of technology that I see in places, and I'll just upload a quick picture and say, look what I found today. And discuss it with them that way. So it's real and it's meaningful to those students. Then you can click Save Your New Assignment, and when you do that, and I guess I'll go ahead, I don't have much in here, but I'll go ahead and we'll just put a couple of words in here. It timed me out, so I'm going to HTML. I'm going to save this real quick, and then once you click Save, of course, it goes into your Unit 1, and it shows you in the assignments when it's due, and the initial post will be in parentheses when the original posts are due. If you select it, you'll get to see a list of all of the students, but there's also a new feature up here in the middle called View the Collaborating with Others topic. So when you click on that, it'll actually take you right to the forum, and you can see all of the students' posts, and you'll be able to grade them, which is great, great, great feature for us. So very nice. So if you go back to forums, nothing has changed. We've already made this, but now it's got that nice link to it back to the coursework. Now I mentioned previously that when you click on forums, and this is, I thought I had this set up, but I don't. Let me go to this other course. And while I'm doing that, I'll go ahead and unmute, and feel free to ask any questions at this time while I'm pulling up this other course. Any questions?
No, I think I'm good until I try to do it, I guess.
Okay.
That's all if I have questions.
No problem. Here's just an example. When you select forums now in the new template, on the left you'll have the actual discussion forums, and then on the right you'll have the rubric. Do either of you use a rubric for discussion forums now?
No, but I have the copy that you sent me, so I'll be adding that onto mine.
Okay, great. Yeah, and this is where you can post your discussion rubric right here, and it's going to show up to your students when they click on forums. The discussion rubric will be on the right, and then here on the left they can actually go into the forums. But I was actually attaching my rubric to every single discussion forum thread, every topic under my assignments, and it really got to a point where I thought, gosh, I'd love just to have one place to put this rubric that's right in the forums. So when the committee met this semester, that's one of the suggestions that I had, was I thought that this rubric would be great because it's right next to the forums, and I wouldn't have to post it over and over and over again. And I think I've put on my portal some content that says this is the discussion rubric that's used in all of the topics throughout the semester. Use this as a guide. It's a very generic rubric, but it just kind of stipulates some guidelines for students and how to format their posts, and it's very general. I know I've seen some others that are several pages long that some faculty use. Again, mine is not as descriptive as that, because I'm hoping for that free, open, collaborative environment. So the more restrictions you put on it, sometimes you don't get that collaboration that you want. I did want to mention that your discussion forums do not just have to be text. You can have students post a video, for example, instead of text. We do a lot of video in my courses, and it's gone over very well. Instead of introducing themselves with text, they could create a really fun, unique, extra normal video, for example, extranormal.com, where they can create a little avatar of themselves and introduce themselves. As you type text into this little program, it actually translates it to a video, to speech. It's kind of a fun way to use discussion forums. Another one is Animoto, A-N-I-M-O-T-O. Great tools for collaborative work in a discussion forum. You'll see a lot of that in the future. Everything is so interactive now and enrich this dynamic content. So instead of just using text, think about other ways that you could have students collaborate with each other instead of just writing. They could do a skit and record it. They could make a poster and upload a picture of their poster or artwork. It could be all different kinds of ways. It doesn't just have to be text. The same thing you would do with your face-to-face is what you want to bridge that gap in your online. So really the discussion forums is what keeps me hopping all semester long. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like every day I'm having to collaborate with students in some way, whether it be through video or text or audio. It seems like we're always communicating on those forums, and it can be very exhausting when you are constantly collaborating. But it's great that it's happening because your students are learning and they're engaged, but as a faculty member, it can be exhausting. I always tell faculty, if you feel exhausted, you're doing it right. All right, so what questions on the forums do you have for me before we move to chat?
I think I'm good.
Jen, are you good? All right. Moving along, do either of you use the chat room?
I haven't, no.
Okay, Jen? Yeah, you're right. It didn't used to work, but I think the bugs are out of it now. At least I've worked on it some this summer, and my students and I have met a couple of times in it. I think the chat is in InsideNC does appear a little old-fashioned. If you've used any instant messenger before or Skype, this chat that we have is really not up to speed, I don't think, with the other systems. But it is available and it can be used, and I've seen some great results from it. So some faculty are actually having their office hours via chat. So they would put on their syllabus that they're available on Tuesday nights from 7 to 8. And if they have questions, they could come to the chat and meet with them virtually, which I think is a great idea. If students needed to communicate with their instructor, they know that that's available. Now, I don't know how many students take advantage of that, but at least the instructor is making an effort and saying, I'm online this time. If you have a question, you can get instant feedback. I think it would be very good if you used it for an exam. review for an exam. You could give students additional points if they came with questions. So the chat is something we're promoting, and it has its own page now. It's over on the left-hand side under the navigation link. You'll see it under roster. It's called this chat. So I'll go ahead and select it one time. I mentioned earlier that with the discussion forums, you could set those up for groups. Well, you can do the same thing with chat. You could set up a separate private chat room just for your group, so they could come and work in real time back and forth. I can recall, gosh, I started taking online classes 15 years ago, and it was pretty basic back then, but what we did have was chat, and one of the group members in my project was from China, and we would have to communicate through this chat, and one of us would be getting up in the wee hours of the morning, and the other one was up at the middle of the night. It was very awkward, but it was incredible back then, that technology that we could work on a project together in a little chat room. Now it seems like we take advantage of this kind of technology because of some of the other items that are available to us, but there's actually two different elements that you see on the chat page. You have a general discussion, and that's default. Everybody has that. So if you select general discussion, this little pop-up comes up, and you know it doesn't look real advanced, but it works. You can see that I'm the only one in here. It's got the list of the users on the right, and then what rooms are available in this course, and there's only one room available at this time. So down here at the bottom, here's your little chat box, and you can expand it if you wanted to, and you could type in your message. You can't change your font or do anything fun like that, but there are some little emoticons up here. You can select a little smiley face. I would not choose the lips. That may be not a very good idea. There's a little clown face. Looks like there's quite a few little faces in here. We'll choose the happy face. The second option, you have the color of your text you can change. There's a looks like there's a sad face, and then there's a bold, italic, and underline tool, and then you have some volume controls as well as save. You can save the transcript from you and your students and upload it for those that weren't there that night, or you can print it off. And you just hit send, and your message appears just like a normal chat. So if there were several people in the room, you could chat back and forth. You can't upload files. I wish you could, but you can't share files across the board. But you can upload them, and you can in the groups and the forums. You just can't in the chats. So the general discussion, you could hold your office hours in there. I usually change the name of it, and I'll show you how to do that. And then you can also add more rooms. Right now there's just one, but if you wanted to add more, you could certainly do that for your students so they have a place that they can come in. I think I have one called the lounge, and students come in and it's just a hangout zone, and it's open during certain hours of the day so they can come in and visit with each other live. So to do that, you just click on this admin chat option down at the bottom, and it looks kind of funky here. We've got yellow and blue colors. Whoops, where'd we go? Come back. I'm going to make this window a little bit larger. And really, the only thing you want to pay attention to, and I'll point this out here, is this area right here called Site Rooms. Everything else you really don't have to pay too much attention to. It's just this area right here called Site Rooms. So let me get my arrow. If I wanted to add a new room, under New Room here, I'm going to put my cursor in the room name, and maybe I want to call this Group 1 Discussion. So the 3 members that are in this group, I could create just for them. And then the topic might be position, paper, let's do position presentation, group project. You can make it moderated if you'd like. And then this little checkbox here is for your users. If you want the users to be able to type in that room, you definitely want to select that option. And then you can select Create on the right-hand side. And then it creates this new room up at the top. You see it right here. So we have general discussion, and then we have the position presentation that we just created. You can delete it. You can also click on Manage. So if you select the Manage icon beside it, it opens up a new window, and you can add users. You can also ban users from it, which usually is what I do. I ban everybody except those 3 members that I want them to participate in that group. So I would put in each of their names, all of the other names in the class except the 3 that I want to participate. So it's a fun way that you could create your group projects. And what's great about this is when you do a course copy from fall to the next semester, you can just erase the messages in each of them, or maybe you have a new project that you're starting with the same group. You can erase the messages and start over again. So anyway, this is a great area to come in and create multiple rooms. You can send to multiple users in this window as well. Let me go ahead and see here. Let me close this out. Come back here to chat. So now I've got my group 1 discussion and my general discussion, so I can go to each of those. Now if my students were banned, they would only see the general discussion, but if they weren't banned, those 3 people that are in group 1 would have access to group 1 discussion. So it's kind of like their own little chat room that they could have. And you could choose to meet with those students at a particular time if you'd like. You would select that, and you have all of the same tools as you would with the general discussion. All the same tools are still there. So with that said, could this be something that you could incorporate into your course, do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it just takes a little time to configure, but your students would really appreciate that time that they could, collaborate with each other instead of having to go outside of InsideNC. Some faculty require them to do a group project, but they'll recommend Google Docs or they'll recommend Skype to communicate. The problem with that is you do not have any transcript over what communication has taken place in the group. So if you keep it within InsideNC, you can tell what students have participated. There's history there that you can see, and it's really black and white. I mean, you can tell who's participated and who hasn't, who's learned and who hasn't. For assessment, keeping it within InsideNC is ideal. So, I encourage you to use the chat. If you just start with office hours, maybe one afternoon or one morning or one evening. I've tried almost every day of the week in the past 10 years, and I find that evenings are the best, and Saturday mornings are also very good. So, you could designate a time that you make yourself available and just open up the chat. I usually have it on my iPad, and I'll just open up the chat window and go about doing my business. And if someone logs in, I'm right there, I've got it up. Just make sure you set your hours, that you're only there from 8 to 9 in the morning or so, or 7 to 8 in the morning. I had a faculty member at Emporia once, and his virtual office hours were from 5:30 in the morning until 7. And I wondered what kind of response he got, because back then I wasn't too much of a morning person, but I am now. But back then I had to really force myself to get up to make those office hours, but I don't know. Any questions for me about forums or chats, about collaborative efforts at all?
I don't think so.
Great, great. Well, I appreciate you being with me this evening. As always, if you have questions as you design your course, you're always welcome to email me at acatterson@neosho.edu, or my extension is 269, so feel free to call as well. And I wish you luck building your classes. We do have some other upcoming trainings this week. Tomorrow we have the Microsoft Excel trainings at the Chinook campus from 2 to 3, and we have an Ottawa training on Thursday for Microsoft Excel. And then next week we're going to be learning more about collaboration tools with InsideNC, and those will be like your Extra Normal and your Animoto, a lot of 2.0 tools. I think I have over 30 that we're going to cover in an hour. They're going to be really quick, but hopefully give you some ideas about how you can collaborate with your students in an online environment, how to add that enriched material. So thanks so much for joining me. I have almost 9 o'clock. If there's no other questions, then we'll see you next week.